We have all heard of fungus and fungi. Mushrooms are a prime example of fungi. So in this lesson, we're going to learn a little bit about fungi and their characteristics and what they do in our lives and how they play a role in life around us. I've drawn a few pictures here to show you examples of what characteristics fungus have and what they do in our lives. And we can see here that we have a glass of wine. Wine, beer, and many beverages that people drink are made by using fungus, such as yeast. And you can see the bread as well. Bread would not rise without using a fungus. In fact, our breads would be flat. Those are the good things that we can use fungus for in our lives. But what about some of the bad things? Well, if you have a brother or sister or a baby in the family, sometimes the baby can get diaper rash, and that is caused from a fungus. Or, have you ever heard of athlete's foot or toenail fungus? Well, toenail fungus and athlete foot is another fungus that people can get. If you ever go walking in the woods and you come across the log and you can see some of the fungus growing on there, or mushrooms, they are playing an important role in the environment. They are decomposing dead materials. And this is important to the environment. So they do have positive and negatives in our lives. But without them, we surely wouldn't be living in the world we live in today. So I believe they have more positive than negative. Let's look at some characteristics of fungus. Fungus are non-motive. This means that wherever they are, they stay there. They cannot move around like you and I, or many other living organisms. Second, let's put a dot there if I can get it to work. Might have to make it bigger. Fungi live in their food. So wherever they're growing, you can bet that they're breaking down the organics around them and gaining their nutrition. So when you get a loaf of bread and it's been sitting there a while and you see this green fungus growing on it, or mold, that is a fungi. And it's not just on the top where you can see it, but those are the spores. But they're, and we'll learn about this in a minute, they have like a root system, or hyphae, that will go deep into the bread. And they absorb nutrients from whatever they're infesting or growing on or living on. Fungi also have cell walls that contain chitin, which you might want to take a more in-depth lesson to learn more about that. They are also heterotrophs. This means that they do not make their own food, but they depend on other organisms. So, you know, you will also hear another term, autotroph, as you study more in science, which means that they make their own food, but heterotrophs depend on other things to get their food. They are our great decomposers. We need them to survive and to live life as we know it. They are very important to the ecosystem and our environment. They can reproduce asexual or sexual. So they can produce by making a spore, or they can share DNA with another fungi and produce together by making a diploid. Do you know that when we grow peanuts, there's a fungus that can be toxic that grows all over our peanuts, our corn, our wheat, and it gets in our dairy products? It's only it can only hurt you in high volumes. So if you eat a little bit, it's not going to hurt you. The AlphaToxin is becoming a little bit more issue in the United States since the FDA is not being as concerned as I think they should be, and most people probably would think that they should be, especially like the Europeans. Their AlphaToxin levels are half ours because the people come first, and of course our lobbyists and stuff affect our products. But anyways, the AlphaToxin can affect your immune system, cause cancer, and and it's found in things like spices, pepper and chilies that's been dried out, processed, tree nuts, corn, dairy products, and peanuts, but mostly raw peanuts, not so much your processed peanuts. So remember that yeah, there are some harmful fungus out there, but this is only in large volumes that this can hurt you. This is just a tip I wanted you to be aware of. Moving on. Here's an example of a mushroom cap here, and this is your most common recognized fungus in the United States, I believe. And I wanted to show you what it is made out of. And if you look at the individual strips here, or lines, those are actually what there are millions of these that come together to make the structure one, and they are called Hyphae, or Hyphae. If there's one, it's called Hyphae, but if you see like a small group, it's called Hyphae. Let me put that on here. And then you have the large group here, which is underneath the ground, and that's called mycelium. Mycelium. Anyways, and then underneath your mushroom structure here, usually you will, if you flip a mushroom upside down, you will see what looks like gills. And that's where your spores are. And the spores will drop down out of the body of the mushroom and land on the ground, or float away even in the air, or be carried away by animals, it doesn't matter, to land somewhere else and start new growth. What a lot of people don't realize is when you see a structure like this, the part sticking up, the part that you can see, this part, is only for reproduction, because the real body and of this fungus is underground, and it's all of this mycelium here, and you won't see that. In fact, when you walk on grass, you're walking over thousands and hundreds of mycelium every day, but you cannot see it because it's on top of the ground and under the ground. But there are millions and millions and millions of this mycelium everywhere. Taking a closer look at the hyphae, let's do this, hyphae. A hyphae is one, and if you had two of these or more, it'd be hyphae. Anyways, they are constructed of single cells here, and they grow in this fashion. Nucleus in the center, and they can grow and grow and grow. This is called a haploid cell here because it carries half of a chromatin that is needed to form another organism. And so if this one crosses over, let's make it bigger here, here we go, and shares its DNA, then you can see you have two nucleus here. So it'd be nuclei. And they can share their DNA, so you have two haploids, that forms a diploid. And that's where you can get your sexual reproduction going here. So that's just a really quick cap. That's not what we're going to cover. But anyways, these hyphae that you see here will actually be the body of the plant. And like I said, most of the time, if it's like a athlete's foot or something like that, these hyphae are running through your skin and into your cells, and what they're doing is they're decomposing. They're injecting enzymes and things like that that decompose so that the fungus can absorb the nutrients it needs. Okay, now here I have another fruiting body here for you to visualize. This is the mushroom that everybody sees when they go out foraging or hiking or whatever, or just walking in their front yard. But remember, the body is always where you can't see it most of the time. The fruiting body is for reproduction, and it can spurt up quickly. It can be hours to a day to 2 days. It's just very fast growing. The mycelium underneath, the hyphae, grow very rapidly in some cases, but they take over the area where they're at, and they stay there until they absorb all the nutrients they need. And once the nutrients are absorbed completely, it's no longer going to be able to make it there, so it dies. Okay, let's do a quiz. So what is the top called here? The part that you can see above the ground? That is called a fruiting body or mushroom. And what is underneath this fruiting body? Spores. If you have one line of root coming out, because I don't want to give you the name so you can think, what do you call that? That's called a hypha. If you have several of them, it's called hyphae. The big mass is called mycelium. We have 5 phyla for the fungus, if you want to know this. If not, then you can go ahead and stop the program, but it only takes a second. These are ones that you might want to know and keep in your notes. And you have Ascidio. I'm thinking of Basidio. Ascomycota, which, the mushrooms, you'll see that they have indentures that look like a cup. And then you have your Basidiomycota, which is your regular mushrooms that you see that come out of the ground that you're more familiar with. Chytridiomycota, which is flagellated. Glamoromycota, which is plant symbiosis, which I think is one of my favorites. It's where the fungus will actually take its hyphae and bury it into the cells of a plant or whatever and share nutrients. So I find that really interesting. And then you got your zygomatica, which is you know, like your bread molds and things like that. So I will be making another video with more detail on these fungus, more taking a more one-on-one. So this is just a basic lesson here. Hope it was helpful. So please like or subscribe. That would be appreciated. And good luck. Ta-ta.